Good morning, everyone. Brian here again with BMK Retro Gaming. This morning I have a little bit of a review for you guys of the IntelliVision. Got my IntelliVision shirt on today. The INTV IntelliVision System 3, or Pro System 3 as I think it was also commonly called. Now, we all pretty well know about the video game industry and market crash of 1983. Though some things about exactly what caused and how caused it and all the factors that went into everything are still debatable. But anyway, at that time, Mattel had basically been taking a lot of market losses and wanted out of the video game business. Yet, former Mattel Electronics Senior Vice President of Marketing, I believe it was, or Advertising 1, Ted Valesky, I think that's how you pronounce it, Terrence Valesky, I mean, he saw that despite the crash, in '83, the demand for video games was still on the rise, not falling. So he got together some investors, who also include some people who had been working on Mattelvision for Mattel, and decided to go ahead and buy out everything IntelliVision from Mattel, and they incorporated as INTV Corp, or INTV Corporation, in 1984. What they would do first was they would go ahead and continue to sell the remaining stock of Mattel IntelliVision 1s and 2s that had not been sold off yet, and remaining games. Then later on, in '85, as that stock had been coming to a dwindle, they had released a redesign of the IntelliVision home video game console line's Mattel IntelliVision 1, the INTV IntelliVision 3. As you can see, mine's missing the top metal plate. This one here, not on great. Not sure if that's just a little bit of wear, or if there was something that was on top of the controller. The disc, directional discs, if they had a cover before, but they still look about like I'd expect. It just looks like, they've had some wear over time. And mine, as some have pointed out before, has obviously been well worn or well loved. Despite that, it still works exactly like it's supposed to. One of the main things, I always use the first controller. It's supposed to be roughly identical to a Mattel IntelliVision 1, though there are a few changes and differences. One thing I noticed early on, which was kind of concerning, was my first player controller. The button appears to be mashed in on the right side button, as though it wouldn't work anymore. Well, as it turns out, the first time I got it on, and since when I need to press and get it to work, despite it looking like it's mashed in, it wouldn't work anymore, this button does still work. So this dadgum console is pretty dadgum tough, and is still trooping along with me, even though it's obviously been well used. I'm still getting good use out of it. Hadn't been giving me any trouble really at all. Do wonder how that button got all the way mashed in, but oh well. Like I said, despite the way it looks, it all still works. Anyhow, yeah, it has the same wired controllers as the Mattel IntelliVision 1 for the most part. Though the cords are a bit better length. Have your same basic slot for inserting games. And I tried it, but my Mattel my IntelliVision system changer did not seem to be compatible with it, so I guess like the Mattel IntelliVision 1, it would require modification to work that way. You do have a channel select under here, so it could be one that'd be interesting to try to actually get to. Would you two stay in there, please? Controllers always want to fall out if I ain't holding them right. Or if I'm not holding them right. And you have basic serial number stuff and all. Otherwise, on the back, I'm not sure, but I think the Mattel IntelliVision 1 commonly had a removable power supply. The 2 happens to have one that is wired up to it. And it still has the basic port for the RF cable, so you need to get an RF to coax connector to use it with a modern television most of the time. Not a problem for me. And of course on front you still have the basic reset and power button, as you would on the Mattel IntelliVision 1. I think they're a little bit different though. Just slides, presses in. Forgive me about holding it. It's like its predecessor, fairly heavy. Have your power button to slide in, off, and on, and your reset button here. So not too complicated. Like I said, even with the match button in on the first controller, it still works fine. Well worn, well loved, but still nice. For the most part. Get this wrap back up since I'm going to go ahead and restore it again. Until it's time to get out and play next time. I always prefer to wrap the cord some. Makes it easy to keep it all together. One thing that I found interesting is, despite all my research and looking online, I cannot find anywhere at all that the INTV IntelliVision 3 is supposed to have any form of lockout method in place on it like the Mattel IntelliVision 2 did, or anything. But my games that I was sent by my friend Scott Gall, let me see, I believe it's Learning Fun or Word Fun 1, I forget, and the IntelliVision Donkey Kong port, they still act a lot like they did on the 2, as though they are locked out. Since I can't find anything that would imply that that's supposed to be, it's highly unusual. Of course, since this redesign was done by INTV Corp, and it's possible they might have used, whatever hardware or software in that design that was also being used. Some of it may have been taken from the Mattel IntelliVision 2 design, and it may have been unintentional. Because, well, although Mattel was not crazy about third-party developers and such and all, even though they did find a way around the lockout on the Mattel IntelliVision 2 after a while, INTV Corp, on the other hand, actually was a bit more, was a fair deal more open to them, and sometimes even seemed to court them to a certain degree, though not much came of it. So it would be funny to me if they had actually done that intentionally. I wouldn't think so. They may have just, working with the Mattel IntelliVision 2, trying to redesign everything and get this more improved model, they might have ended up unintentionally copying over something in the hardware or the software, like the exec software, without realizing it would still contain that whatever that lockout method had been. Of course, it also could just be that although my friend Scott Gold told me that both of those games were tested and working, well, I don't want to accuse him of being a liar, but he could have been mistaken. I can't get them working, and it's supposed to be like the Mattel IntelliVision 1. They should work with this. Instead, they act a lot like, the Word or Learning Fun 1. You do get up to the startup screen, all, but once you pick a game option, game crashes and you go back to a blank green screen. And Donkey Kong doesn't do anything but a blank green screen. It sometimes tries to bring up its title screen, but it's about as far as it usually gets. So they do kind of still act locked out, and believe me, I've cleaned those two games to death and back. And still nothing, so that was kind of a disappointment since I can't get those playing with it. I shall conquer them at some point, though. I don't give up so easily. Anyway, I just wanted to get this out and let you guys take a look into the INTV IntelliVision 3 model. Again, mine's more rough than not, though. As I said, everything still works just fine on it. And it was actually kind of real steal. I forget what the base price on it was, but I think at most I paid off of Mercari only around $45 or something like that for it. If you count shipping and shipping costs and sales tax. So not a bad deal at all. And to get one that's still in working condition despite its rather rough appearance. Doesn't make a difference. Still works fine. So anyway, yeah, when I had gotten it and did the unboxing video, I had been mentioning that I was going to go ahead and give you guys a review on it pretty much, but because it is a bit different than Mattel IntelliVision 1, if not terribly different. But if you guys haven't figured out by now on some things like this, I can tend to be a bit of a procrastinator. That's why it's just now coming down, even though I've had this thing for, I think, what, a couple months? Anyway, now it's finally done, and hopefully you guys have learned a few minor things about it. If you enjoy my channel's content, please like, share, and subscribe. And please don't hesitate to leave any questions, comments, or suggestions down in the comments section below. You guys take care, have a nice morning, and I will see you again in my next video.